Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. And we're going to talk today about chronic inflammation and chronic disease from chronic inflammation and the role of what you put into your body, into your heart, into your mind, and its importance on the chronic nature of inflammation and disease. One of the things people want is a quick fix to a long-standing problem. You can't have that. You just can't have that. What took you 20 years to achieve in terms of bad health cannot be turned overnight. And the simple reason for that is your body's muscles and heart and brain cells and intestinal cells are all turning over. They're turning over, meaning they're dying, they're senescence, and they're becoming regenerated. And as you increase the quality of what you put into your body, you are what you eat, and you are what you do not eat also. So if you're taking vaccines, the vaccines are going to go into your very cells, your soul. If you're taking raw butter, that's going to go into your very cells. If you're eating leafy greens, they're going to regenerate your cells in a good way. And so it is critical to understand the nature of habit in doing all this. And initially, I had a client a couple of days ago, and one of the first things that I try to do with people is get them into the habit. She had a lot of problems. I think she has fertility problems, asthma, eczema, mental issues, and so on. You don't even go there with remedies, homeopathic remedies, until you have addressed the obstacle to the cure. The obstacle to cure being, what are they putting into their mouth, into their body, and what are they doing that they should not be doing? So that's just to say, folks, you need to be in the habit of doing sauerkrauts, beet kvass, master tonics, ghee, butter, tallow, lard, collagenous broths, meats that are as rare as possible because they contain the enzymes you need to digest them. And above everything else, good quality saturated fats to replace your polyunsaturated or liquid oils that you may have been using for many decades. Saturated fats help with your cell membranes, your bones, your heart function, liver, hepatotoxicity. There are many, many vegetarian people who are alcoholics in my country and where I come from. Their livers just die. Whereas a person who is raised on lard and pork can down a gallon of vodka before their liver gives out. So fats protect the liver from hepatotoxicity. And we have an epidemic of alcoholism and substance abuse, addiction, and destruction of bodily organs in some of the vegetarian nations of the world because they've adopted Western habits that are bad, but not the habits that are healthful. Your kidneys can't function without saturated fats. The more aspirin you eat, the more your kidneys are going to be damaged. Aspirin is not a benign molecule. Salicylic acid is not benign. I was reading during all the flu epidemics, the people who were given aspirin, salicylic acid, their flu turned into pneumonias and they died, whereas the people who did not take aspirin to reduce fever survived their flus just fine, the flu of 1918. Your immune system requires saturated fats. And you detoxify through saturated fats because saturated fats envelope poisons and help you excrete them. Very important. What are sources of saturated fats? Butter, coconut oil, lard, tallow. The animal fats contain A, D, K, and E, and a bunch of different minerals that are essential. Animal fats contain lecithin, they contain cholesterol, glycosphingolipids. The raw animal fats contain the Wilson factor, the raw dairy fats in particular, which is the anti-arthritic factor. And it cures arthritis. All of this is destroyed by pasteurization. So you want to eat fats as raw as possible. We talked about salts, and thank you very much for that Hawaiian salt, Kylie. I have been using it, and I love the taste of the clay in the salt. It's just delicious. Get salt from as many different sources as you can. Let it be as unrefined as possible, so you get a variety of minerals and trace elements into your body. Those are the things that will prevent chronic illness, chronic autoimmunity, chronic celiac, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, just inflammation. Salts contain minerals that are sacred, that you need in very tiny quantities. If you don't have them, you get sick.
Sushma?
Yeah.
I know I didn't realize you were going to go past the fat so quickly. Land told me something yesterday from his dentist, and I would love him to ask you now about it because of the fats and the things he was told.
I asked that Sunshine earlier of Sushma.
Yes.
Responded.
And I will repeat that vegetarianism and dental health, especially veganism and dental health, I should correct that, don't do well together. Especially people from the Western world who turn vegetarian do not have the traditional concepts of how to get your calcium from, say, pulses, how to get protein from beans and such, because a lot of them are allergic to these things. They didn't grow up eating them. So when a Western person becomes vegetarian, their diet becomes kind of lopsided. Their bodies ancestrally are used to meat, milk as sources of all the amino acids, calcium, phosphorus, and so on. And so anytime people turn vegetarian, especially turn their children vegetarian overnight, watch out. Watch out for crumbling teeth, cavities, root canals, all sorts of nasty things can happen. It can be done, but you have to be very careful. If it's accompanied with raw milk, if it's accompanied with semi-raw eggs, lots of yolk, which contains cholesterol, which a vegetarian diet does not provide, your child will have good brain power. Cholesterol helps you fight infections. And I find during this COVID epidemic that a lot of the people in Sebastian, this area, who took vaccines are people who are very frightened of the disease. When you're eating a high-fat diet, you have mental stability. When you're eating animal foods, you don't get rattled by things like COVID. You deal with them with equanimity, and you don't go out and get vaccinated. A lot of these people who are herbalists and vegetarian and vegan went and got vaccinated. The vaccine side effects you get protected from by eating saturated animal fats and animal proteins, and they didn't have those, and they had terrible reactions, a lot of deaths, a lot of autoimmune disease. Just terrible. And so I can't emphasize enough the role of saturated animal fats, animal products in general, in as raw a form as possible to have good mental health and to have good dental health.
So if you are making a bone broth, and you have the fat that comes up that you take off, in the first hour or two.
Yes.
Is that a problem that it's been heated and that you would use it?
Yes, it is a problem that is heated. The enzymes are dead, but it's not rancid fat. It's very good non-oxidized fat still, and you can eat it. You can use it for cooking because it has a high smoke point.
Thank you.
Butter has a smoke point of 250 Fahrenheit, and ghee, which is rendered butter, has a smoke point of almost 480 degrees Fahrenheit. So for cooking, use these cooked fats, but for eating, try and eat raw fats.
Thank you.
Anytime that anyone tells you about some of these isms that veer away from what your great-grandmother ate, question it.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. Megan's having a hard time getting back in. She said that she was in the store and couldn't talk, but now she's home. But
Okay.
it said that you kicked her off. Can you allow her to come back in
Yes,
again?
yes, I can easily do that. And I'm
I
trying to
will-
see how to do it.
I will text her that you're figuring it out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm figuring it out. Invite. Is she on or is she not on? Once she comes on, I will know. Okay. And the other thing is Megan can also look at the recording. We will record this. So we talked about easy first fast foods, guys. We talked about those and you had lots of questions and we addressed all those.
Question now that comes up. You
Mhm.
talk about liver, which I do have occasionally, and you talk about diced into hamburgers, omelets, etc.
Mhm.
The hamburgers and the omelets, I would imagine from how they're described, are cooked. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, cooked. Try and eat your hamburger rare as much as possible. Rare is the key in getting nutrition.
Okay. Thank you.
This is just an interesting thing I found in a book written way, way back when. This is a person who looked at a compilation of deaths from homeopathy in homeopathy hospitals versus death in allopathic hospitals. And he looked at the statistics of different hospitals to look at the general mortality. And in homeopathic hospitals, the general mortality was 4.5%. And in allopathic hospitals, it was 10.5%. So before you go to an allopathic hospital for any kind of treatment, please consider these statistics and understand that when you have a fever, it is not a bad thing. Under homeopathy, the fever is your body's adaptive mechanism. The minute you suppress it with salicylic acid or aspirin, your chances of mortality go double or more than double. Your chances of landing in serious pneumonia type conditions or bronchopneumonias increases dramatically. The elderly population, senior citizens have been advised willy-nilly to eat aspirins every day. You're doing nothing but damaging your kidneys and increasing your chances of death. And these are all statistics collected from literally hundreds of homeopathic and allopathic hospitals all over the world in the late 1800s all the way to the 1900s. And the percentages are pretty darn consistent.
Sushma, I have a question about body temperature.
Mhm.
I've heard cases of not friends, but people I know whose children especially had temperatures that went up to 105 or 106 degrees
Mhm.
Fahrenheit.
Yes.
Is there a certain point where the rise of temperature can be dangerous to the body and should be dealt with?
Yes. In an unvaccinated child, the temperatures can run on to 103 to 105, and they will not have side effects. In a vaccinated child, the body is trying to get rid of the poisons, and frequently temperatures go higher. The body almost needs to send these temperatures higher in order to elicit a immunoprotective effect, but the child can run into seizures and all sorts of problems, brain swelling, encephalopathies, and so on. So you have to be very careful with populations that have been heavily medicated with drugs, antidepressants, vaccinations, and so on. And with children, I would say if your child is healthy, first, its temperatures are not going to be rip-roaringly high. And when they do, you can let it run. Just watch and observe. And that's the key in natural healing. Watching and observing is 95% of the battle. The minute you panic and say, oh my goodness, fever's gone over 105, got to take him to emergency, you lost the battle. Because
So can you use, rather than using aspirin with them, can you use cold, like cold water, cold bath, cold
yes,
whatever?
yes, exactly. You can use mechanical antipyretics. You can use homeopathy. Belladonna is a great remedy for little children. Gelsemium, aconite, bryonia. These are excellent remedies to get you through fevers, flus, COVID without dying. I must have treated about 70, 80 cases, clients who had COVID in the last, continue to have COVID in the last 2-3 years. Nobody's died. There was a couple over 70 in India. The dad, the 70-plus-year-old man, was admitted to hospital. And he was a diabetic. I actually had them take him out of hospital because hospitals were killing patients by giving them too many steroids and antibiotics, which were turning up massive fungal infections called mucormycosis, and diabetics were dying from it. His SpO2 levels were in their 80s, came home, put on homeopathic remedies. Instantaneously, oxygen levels went up. He started beat kvass. His heart hale and hearty and doing great. This was a year and a half ago, I think, maybe 2 years ago.
So just a brief question. You
Mhm.
talked about, Sunshine mentioned about using mechanical, or you mentioned too, mechanical cold applications, or in addition to homeopathy for elevated fever. You also emphasize being observant of what's going on. What are some of the things, again, carrying on with a high fever, that one must be aware of in, say,
Oh,
treating
you've asked,
children?
yeah, you've asked such a good question because I run into it all the time. I have mothers who call me in a panic and say, my child has a fever, do something, do something. And I know exactly nothing about what they're talking about. When your child has fever, observe, when did the fever start? What triggered the fever? What makes the child feel better? Is the child howling with the fever, or the child quietly playing with the fever? All of these are important things to observe when you're trying to treat the child homeopathically, because the remedies are diametrically different. What is the child saying? Even though they look like they have fever, they're in pain, they're saying, oh, I have no problem, I feel pretty well. Baptisia, could be arnica. There are remedies that say and speak that. And so what you have to remember, and I'll give you a mnemonic, which is very easy to remember, SLAM, which is, what is the chief complaint? What is the concomitants? Along with that complaint, there are various seemingly unrelated things going on, like a pain in the big toe, or there's a cough, and there's also abdominal distress, or there's flatulence, or the right elbow might be hurting. These are called concomitant. So C is for chief complaint and concomitants. L is for location. Where is that pain? Where is that fever? Is he hot on the forehead and cold on the feet? Is the skin hot, but he's feeling chilly? Location. Modality. When does the fever rise or shrink? Is it diurnal? Is it continuous? Is it relapsing? Is it remitting? So that's called modality. And the last one is sensation. How does the child feel? How do you feel? If you tell a homeopath these things about yourself, you have observed yourself when you're sick. And that observation is so valuable, not just in homeopathic treating, but in calming you down. So a mother looks at all these things and says, yeah, child's got this, that, and the other. Should I be worried? Should I not be worried? It sort of calms you down and helps you think through things. A fever is a good thing. Eruptions or pustules from chickenpox are a very good thing. If you suppress them, the person dies. The mortality increases. So the body, if you vomit or you have diarrhea of poisonous foods, that's a very good thing. Let it rip. And so don't try to stop the body's sacred and healing mechanisms, but observe very carefully. Is the child getting dehydrated? If the vomits and diarrhea are every 5 minutes, give them China for body fluid dehydration. Give them a teaspoon of water with a little bit of, or milk or something every 10 seconds or 10 minutes. And so those are the sorts of things that will be very useful in being calm, observing acutely, and observing accurately. Panic is the enemy of good observation. That answer your question, Land?
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Routh looked at various hospitals, percentage of mortality. You almost never die from pneumonia in homeopathy. So you know how they say 95 years old, the person got the flu turned into pneumonia, person died. Anyone treated with homeopathic remedies simply does not die from pneumonia. They die due to the allopathic administration of remedy. And here we see the mortality rate. Homeopathic hospitals, 5.7, allopathic mortality, 24, 4 times more. Pleuritis, 4% in homeopathic hospitals, 13%. So 3 times more. Peritonitis, inflammation in your belly, peritoneal membrane, 4 versus 13%. Dysentery, homeopathy, 3% mortality. Children don't die from dysentery in homeopathic hospitals. They die in allopathic hospitals from the allopathic treatments. 7 times higher rate of death in allopathic hospitals from dysentery. Typhus, a disease no more, but typhus, the homeopathic mortality rate is a lot lower than allopathic. And all diseases totaled 4.5% versus 8.5%. So percentage saved by homeopathy are 63.8%, and ratio of allopathic to homeopathic mortality is 3 times. Allopathic mortality is thrice as much, which brings us to the role of food as medicine. Why do we keep talking about raw milk? Raw milk has lymphocytes from a cow, B lymphocytes. Pasteurized or the organic valley milk, which is ultra high temperature, treated to 280 degrees, destroyed. Infant formula does not contain B lymphocytes. So if you can't breastfeed, folks, try and use the raw milk formula for your infant, for your child. Macrophages, these are the lymph cells that help to kill pathogens in your body, surround them and circle them and eat them up. These are the macrophages, are the cells that eat up aluminum and mercury and other poisons that vaccines put out into your deltoid muscles. Neutrophils are other lymphocytes that are active in raw milk. Antibodies, raw milk supplies you with antibodies. And if you're compromised, if you say you have chronic disease, there's nothing as reinvigorating as raw milk. The only problem is typically people with chronic disease and inflammation can't digest raw milk. Someone needs to mute their phone, guys. And so it's important to develop the ability to digest raw foods. It's not going to happen overnight. You start with a thimbleful of milk and you go up from there. You keep milk on the counter, warm it, and you eat it. You sip it instead of guzzle it because it's food. And pretend you're eating a solid. It has B12 binding protein, which helps to take the B12 from your intestines into your body. The B12 you take in pill form doesn't do that. So 99% of the B12 you take, the Trader Joe's B12, you're gonna poop it out. Milk contains factors, the bifidus factors, which is food for the bacteria in your gut. So it's a magical, miraculous elixir of life. It contains medium chain fatty acids, which your body metabolizes very differently than long chain fatty acids. They go through chylomicrons, through your lymphatic system, and get absorbed directly into your brain, your tissues, and so on. And these fatty acids break down into ketones and are like rocket fuel for your brain.
I have a question about milk and other sources that maybe increase the macrophage and the effects that they can have. If I drink, or if one drinks going from a thimblespoon full to a glass to 2 glasses of milk, of raw milk, does that increase the effectiveness, or is there a certain point you say, well, I have too much milk, that doesn't work anymore?
No, your body will tell you when you've had too much milk, and you will just be satiated. You'll be satisfied. So milk will be to your satisfaction. Okay. Some people drink a gallon. I know people who drink a gallon, youngsters who drink a gallon of milk, and I know people who do thimblefuls 4 times a day. Anything there and in between is fine, depending upon the digestive capacity of your body, what you can afford to drink, what you feel like drinking, etc. But I would say add raw foods to your diet, especially raw milk. Raw milk is available in a lot of areas of the world. The Indian ghee cow milk is fantastic. It is very easy to digest. You just need to go to a clean source and get it.
Excellent, thank you.
Medium chain fatty, it contains fibronectin, contains gamma interferon, which helps kill cancers. It contains cancer hamlet, bamlet, cancer killing tumor necrotic cells that actually go out and kill cancer cells. It contains lactoferrin. Lactoferrin and lactoperoxidase. These are enzymes that are critical. Lactoferrin helps you ferry iron from the milk safely into your body, because iron is a very dangerous substance, oxidizes very fast, and it's like a knife in your body if you take straight iron. But lactoferrin helps you metabolize it or digest it better. It contains complex sugars, which you need. It contains hormones and growth factors, which are wonderful for bodies that need these to regenerate their cells. So milk is not food, it's medicine. And so when people complain about the price of milk, it's like, oh, 15 to 20 bucks a gallon. I would compare it to the cost of chemotherapy and radiation and medicine, which is $250,000 to $500,000 and ends up killing you.
Sushma, I have a question.
Mhm.
With the raw, I get the raw milk,
Mhm.
and I find that I really enjoy allowing it to clabber and have it that way. Now, is there any problem having it that way rather than just fresh out of the bottle?
Not at all, not at all.
Okay.
Great. Get your raw milk, never refrigerate it. The first day you drink it fresh, the second day it's lightly clabbered, by the 10th day it's turned to pure clabber. All forms of milk that are extraordinarily nutritious and sacred food.
Thank you.
Is the clabbering actually increased fermentation of it, or what happens?
Yeah. Milk contains compounds that suppress the fermentation of pathogenic bacteria and encourage lactobacilli to come in. It invites lactobacilli in, and that ferments the milk, clabbers it, and it's just wonderful food. And all of this happens naturally. If you took a pasteurized homogenized milk and placed it on the counter, anyone guess what would happen?
It would just stay there.
It would either stay there and nothing would happen. It would last there for 2,000 years, which means it's plastic, not food, or it would putrefy. It would stink and smell, whereas raw milk just smells more and more delicious with every passing day.
So the suggestion is actually doubling down on something you said, Sushma, earlier. I find that if I drink fresh raw milk out of the refrigerator, it's too cold for me.
Mm-hmm.
What I tend to do is pour a glass or a cup first thing in the morning, or more or less first thing in the morning, and let it sit so it becomes a room temperature, and then I can drink it later in the day, and it's very enjoyable to me.
Me too. Exactimo. Yes. At room temperature, milk is far more digestible than refrigerator, although some people, like Richard, he can guzzle raw milk from the fridge. More power to him, not me.
I make half my milk into kefir.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Unheated.
Yeah. Guys, I would recommend everybody get kefir grains and, make your own kefir. It's so delicious. And ask Claudia about the kefir recipes. She is the queen of fermentation in Hawaii.
Where do you get kefir grains?
Kefir grains, you can order them from Europe. Go join some kefir groups. You pay them for postage. They'll mail you some. And there's all sorts of people who are delighted to get rid of their kefir grains. We could even find kefir grains in Goa. There's a woman who sold kefir and was happy to give us grains for my daughter. And, she used to make kefir and it was delicious.
Some years ago, we were living on a farm. We got some kefir. I don't remember from what source it was. It was some company or something. And I told them after a while how fast it was growing. And that was from raw milk from local cows. They said, we've never heard of anything that grows that fast. So it was delicious. I mean, I really enjoyed it. That I'm a distance away from that time and place, but it's an interesting part of my life.
Yeah. And so guys, there are no labels, no ingredient labels on raw milk, but it is one of the most nutrient dense foods you can eat, and for these following reasons. This is Master Tonic ingredients. Master Tonic ingredients can be a combination of these and other ingredients, coarsely chopped. In a food processor is easier because you're gonna not get pepper on your hand, or wear gloves, please, when you dice peppers. Pour them into put them and place them in layers in a jar, and you will have, and pour apple cider vinegar on top, and you have Master Tonic. Master Tonic contains the juice of pressed apples. It's very mineral rich. It's very flavonoid rich. Anyone who is on Master Tonic either didn't get COVID, doesn't get flus, or if they do, they're very mild. So try and make this a habit, a daily tablespoon or two part of your life.
Question about Master.
Mhm.
Sorry for interrupting. A question about Master Tonic. I've been using it for a while, and I find occasionally when I use it, for instance, in a salad dressing or on something else, that I have kind of a soreness created in my throat. Could it be that there's something, some element I've used is irritating, or I should decrease the amount, or what do you say?
Yes, either decrease the amount or emulsify it in a fat. Throw in some olive oil, throw in cheeses, throw in hollandaise into it, and yeah, it's probably the peppers. It's probably the peppers you're slightly sensitive to.
Great, thank you.
So, and it's powerful, guys. So you don't have to eat things that make your throat raw. You can dilute it. You can make it into a tea, a cold tea, and it's wonderful.
And what should be the dose for the kids?
A tablespoon or two, and give it to them in things rather than straight if they don't like it. Girls tend to love it straight, boys tend to hate it, but that's a gross generalization on my part. You will give them a dab with your fingertip first, ask them whether they like it or not, and based upon that, either put it in their food or dilute it, or throw it in their salads. Those are good ways to get it in.
Okay, thank you.
So everyone has the recipe for Master Tonic. Equal parts: horseradish, onion, ginger, garlic, peppers, turmeric, and other rooted flavonoids that you can add to it. You can add galangal to it by all means. You can add lemongrass.
I remember you telling us one time that you put together a Master Tonic, but you didn't have horseradish, but you would get it and add it later.
Absolutely, yes.
Is there anything about adding it all at the same time or later, or mixing, or how does it work?
Nope, nothing about anything. You can add half the ingredients, all the ingredients later, earlier. You can do second batches and third batches after you've taken out, siphoned off the top. You can use the dregs, no rules. It's all good.
Great, thanks.
We don't have horseradish. Oops, sorry. We don't have horseradish in Hawaii, so I use a really sharp end of summer daikon.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
And how long does the Master Tonic last?
Forever. I've had mine for years sometimes. Like I forgot a bottle in the back 5 years later. It was fantastic. Very potent.
So just a side note about daikon that I've learned through experience and through guidance, that daikon raw is very, very powerful, but daikon cooked is a lot milder.
Yes, very much so, very much so. And the daikon you get here is pretty diluted down. The ones you get in Korea and Taiwan and India is far sharper.
The hotter the weather, the sharper.
Yeah, and they've bred milder species, I guess, but you can use whatever you like, whatever floats your boat. So it's very important medicine in your life. That'll keep you healthy all your life.
So this is a side one. It's an extension, actually, of something I don't remember hearing you, Sushma, say anything about. And I know about seed oils, but what about seeds themselves, pumpkin seeds or sesame seeds or sunflower seeds or etc.?
Very good question. Seeds themselves are fine, except you need to soak and get the phytates and lectins off the skins of those seeds. Remember, the seeds are the reproductive bank of that plant. They don't want anyone eating them. In order for those to be non-toxic to humans, and that's why animals don't eat seeds. They don't like seeds because they're toxic. So what humans need to do, or used to do and have forgotten now, is they used to soak them, ferment them so that the phytates and lectins are dissolved, and then the nutrition in the seeds is available to you. Remember that for all seed eating. Soak, sprouted, fermented.
So extending just one thing I've known in ordering things like organic or well cultivated seeds, some of them say that they're sprouted when you buy them. That it seems to me bad to buy some that's already sprouted instead of sprouting them at home. Any comments on that?
Yes, those are great. Then you don't have to do it at home.
Okay.
Yep.
What about seeds that you can buy toasted or or raw, and you toast them?
Still got phytates and lectins. In fact, those are sometimes harder to digest. I've had people with huge troubles digesting those toasted almonds. The second you soak them and then dehydrate them, piece of cake, no problem, no allergies.
What about I soak them and I toast them, like especially almonds? I do that.
Extra good, extra delicious.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to do that with smaller seeds like sunflower seeds. They just ruin the batch, but pumpkin seeds work really well.
Yeah. You can take virtually all seeds, soak them, and dry them on a very, very low heat oven, like 90 to 125 overnight, and they turn out great.
Great, thanks.
Anytime you make granolas, please soak your seeds and then dry them, dehydrate them. All righty, can I afford to eat this way? Yes. And you guys are prime examples. You can do it. You can do it on a budget. You can do it with practically no money and nifty ideas and creativity. And so lots of tips and tricks we've discussed over the years. Buy it from farmers direct, buy it in quantity. You got to focus on the good ingredients, the ones, if you say I'm going to eat soy and I'm going to eat organic soy, please look at the world around you. 96% of the soy out there is GMO, Roundup laden, Roundup ready. You're not going to find organic soy, real organic soy, because the seeds of that and the pollen of that fly over to these so-called organic seeds. So there are ingredients that are inherently good and not contaminated by mankind, and there are ingredients that are inherently bad, which you want to shun. And
fermented soy and tempeh, for instance, does the fermentation actually heal or cure some of the negative things that you would have?
It's genetically modified. It's so toxic and it's got so much Roundup and so much toxicity. I would avoid any tempeh that's made from soy.
Okay.
I mean, you literally have to have a vacuum garden in order to avoid contamination by GMO soy.
Good.
But there are other tempehs made from other things that are pretty good. And there's all sorts of lists published by the, the clean foods people, Clean 15 and so on. And so when you're shopping in the grocery store, at least stick to the perimeter aisles, at least stick to the clean ingredient, clean fruits and vegetables. Make your own salad dressings, get unrefined salts from various sources in bulk, and you can split them. Like Redmond salt, if you buy a 50-pound bag, it works out to like a couple of bucks a pound. And if you buy in small quantities, it's much more. So figure it out, you can do it. And you don't need lots and lots of foods to survive and live very, very good and eat deliciously. You just need good quality foods.
One of the things that I've taken is, the good disparity in price between 1 ounces or 2 ounces of some organic food and then a pound. I mean, it's just like, it seems like someone's done some calculations to make it desirable to not get the bigger quantities, but when I get the bigger quantities and I end up sharing them with other people.
Exactly.
It feels really good to do that. Yeah.
people routinely do that. People grow vegetables in their gardens of one kind or the other, and then they share them, and that's perfect. You have community garden, there's always surplus from neighbors' gardens. Compost your waste and toss that into your garden. You know, you get share purchases. Azure Standard is a great place to buy food in bulk. And there's many, many very good sources. In California, we don't lack for good food at budget prices.
It's again extending beyond all this, but I compost all the things which are non-meat in my garden. And I want to know if you wanted to focus some time on alternate means of composting. I've done some research on that, and just to know if you want to continue that or expound on that at some future time.
Oh, yes, yes. Your kitchen waste is gold in your garden. And I don't even bother to make actual compost. I put my kitchen waste in a giant composting bin. And from time to time, I dig a hole, like come winter season, when the ground turns soft, I'm gonna dig a hole. I will line it with the kitchen compost, cover it up with dirt, cover that up with mulch and plant in it. I kid you not, my vegetables are 5 times the size of a normal veg with compost underneath. It's just amazing organic waste. In the Larkspur garden, before I left, I had 3 huge kitchen compost bins. I dug a big hole in the backyard, stuck them in, covered it with dirt, put mulch on top, and planted flowers and fruits, and you literally never need to water them. They're beautiful, they're pest-free. It's just amazing.
So I've been doing a process, the recent one is called, I think, lasagna composting, where you layer brown or like paper or things like that, or chopped up paper and the food wastes. And you make that into kind of, I call it lasagna, but a sandwich type of thing that you dig in the ground. And the only side effect beyond improving my soil is that the local rodents really love to explore it.
Yes, yes, rats will love that, yes. But you have good products out of your garden, right?
Well, I'm changing an almost 100% sand garden to something other. So I've had wood chips put on a couple of times and distributed them, and then I do the lasagna composting and all that. So the soil is generally getting better.
Nice, nice. Hats off to you. Even a square inch of soil turned into real soil is worth a worthwhile effort for all of us. So folks, you can afford it and you can do it. But the most important thing I wanted to say was, if anything sounds overwhelming, just don't worry about it. You know, I sometimes I've done that with clients, especially younger people who are trying to change their life very dramatically. I just tell them to do one thing, and that's it. Forget everything else. Don't sweat, but don't give up. If you screwed up today, you can do something tomorrow. Something is better than nothing, and you have all the time in the world. You have all the time in the world to change habits, to make one thing better in your life, to read about one remedy per week and learn a little bit about aconite or belladonna. And you can choose to make a new eating decision literally every 3 hours. If you blew it on the breakfast, you can say at lunch, I'm going to do these wonderful things for myself.
Great, great. One reminder.
Yeah, yeah. Any comments, anyone?
I like the points where you emphasize, I guess it's attitude in addition to or besides the food or the homeopathics, but it's how we approach life, or how we approach our garden, how we approach our bodies. All of that is very, very important to me.
So true, so true. Yep. All right, and with that, I'm going to stop sharing and we can have a discussion. Thank you, everybody. We will meet a couple weeks from now, the second Friday of November again, and discuss the next part of